It is 2 o'clock, and it's already been far too long of a day. What's up, guys? The plan for this weekend's video was going to be me showing you guys my favorite YouTubers, both like booktubers and just normal YouTubers or people that do gaming stuff. But I realized that I'm going to need some more time to edit that one since it'll be more of the kind of flashy, highly edited videos that we do sometimes on the weekends. So I'm going to work on that for the next week, but I did want to do a Just Chillin' video since I've seen some controversy in the book community space. It seems like this stuff comes back around every now and then, and I figured that I would just chip in my 2 cents on that since I've missed the last couple of them. I'll also talk about what I've been reading and playing lately to wrap it up, so let's get into it. There is a tweet that I saw a couple days ago. I'm going to pull it up here, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but it is an author, and they're saying, why would you read a book from start to finish, enjoy it, yet never review it? Do you forget? Do you not know what to write? Do you think it's not particularly useful, or ... And the comment section is wild. You have everyone from either side of the spectrum saying, because I'm a reader and I paid for the book and I have the right to decide if I want to review it or not. And then you have the other side of the aisle saying, yeah, it's the reader's responsibility to review every single book they read because that helps the author. And while I agree that it does help the author, I'll be super blunt. If you truly believe that it is the reader's responsibility to review every single book that they read, I highly suggest that you go find Farmer Joe's farm and get fucked by a horse, because that is an insane take. It is not the reader's responsibility to review every single book they read. It's not the reader's responsibility to promote the author's work. That's what their whole marketing side of their business is for. Whether they're self-pub or trad-pub, it's their job to market their book. The people that are like me, YouTubers, that out of our own free time, we promote some of these books and we talk about the ones that we like and the ones that we didn't like. That's something that we enjoy doing. It's something that we decide to do for certain books, and I think that it is completely up to us to decide when and how and what books we would like to do that with. So you guys may remember that maybe a couple months ago or so, there was a guy on the book Twitter space that was saying that he was essentially saying it's like a crime to DNF or not review a book if you've been giving an advanced reader copy of that book. And it really, like, people really took him to the wall for that. Like, he did not come out of that looking very good. And I'm sure, to no one's surprise, he is also in these comments saying that you should be reviewing every single book that you read. And then you got people in here saying that they refuse to do negative reviews because then that doesn't help the author in the long run. And you have people kind of on both sides of the aisle with that too. There's I'm not going to name any names, but there was another booktuber that I kind of stopped watching just because the only thing they ever did was positive book reviews. And I don't think that you should, especially for a self-pub author or a self-pub title, I don't think you should absolutely destroy their work in a review or anything. But I think that if you are a reviewer, and this is how I feel about this is how we feel as the Fantasy Files, as reviewers. that you should have both negative and positive reviews, because otherwise no one can trust anything you're saying. If you're only coming out with positive reviews, then you come off kind of like a shill, like you've like all like the probability of all the books that you've read having been positively reviewed, that the probability of that is so small, there has to be a negative review in there somewhere. And if you don't have negative reviews mixed in with the positive, then you just come off looking super fake, or like you give every single book that you read a high score or a positive review, which just isn't statistically possible. Like there has to be, if you read 100 books, I guarantee you 25 to 50% of those books are not going to hit for you, if not more. I think it's pretty rare for me that I find a book that I want to give a glowing review for. Probably maybe 25% of the books that I read, I might have a glowing review for. So I think honesty is really important. I think that it's, to the credit of the reviewer to have both negative and positive reviews on their blog or YouTube channel or whatever they use to get their reviews out there. I think it's more of a credibility thing. And I think that negative reviews do help the author. I think they do help authors to look and see, first of all, is my book reviewing well? Are people liking this? If the answer is an overwhelming no, then they have two options from there. I think that in the creative space, authors shouldn't necessarily let reviews dictate what and how they write if they want to write a certain way. But if you're more business minded and you want your books to sell well and be received well, maybe those negative reviews help those authors take a look at their work and say, okay, what isn't working for people? What can I flex and change and adapt to my audience? And I think that the times that authors have done that, it's worked out pretty well. So I will say that negative reviews, not only do they give the reviewer more credibility, but they also can help the author in many ways to kind of take a second look at their work. But kind of going back to the original tweet, reviewing every book you read, Ed McDonald had a great reply in here. Let me see if I can find it. He says, okay, so just a reminder, their initial tweet was, why would you read a book from start to finish, enjoy it, yet never review it? And Ed McDonald, author of the Blackwing series, or the Raven's Mark. Sorry, I forget what his book is. His first book is Blackwing, but I think the series is called The Raven's Mark. Ed McDonald says, because you get to read what you want to and then are beholden to nobody to ever mention it again. And I think that that's absolutely right. I think that, reading is a hobby for most people. It's not a second job. It kind of is a second job for me. I don't really get paid for this, but, I put in as much work as I would with a second job. But I've chosen this. I've chosen to do this. Your average reviewer, they're picking up a book at Barnes and Noble. Why would they go out of their way to review it unless they really felt strongly in one direction or another? Maybe if you're not getting reviews for your books, it means that you're not creating enough of a emotional reaction one way or the other with your readers. Because even before we started the Fantasy Files, if I read something that I really liked, or if I read something that I really hated, I felt compelled to talk about it. And I think that's where a lot of reviews flow from. So yeah, maybe if you're not getting reviews, take a look at your work and see why you're not causing that emotional reaction in somebody. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but as most of you know, I'm reading the Harry Potter books right now, and I am screaming about them from the mountaintops because I have such an emotional reaction to them. And obviously, not every book series is going to give you that emotional reaction, but a lot of them should, if you're finding good series, and if they're written well, then there should be some sort of um, compelling, emotional driven need to talk about them. And lastly, real quick, I'll talk about DNFs because I didn't really get a chance to talk about this when that other controversy was going on a while back. And I just kind of want to explain how we as the fantasy files feel about DNFs. Um, Arcs are a tricky subject because, yeah, if you're given an arc and are expected to get a review out, then that's one thing. If you're under maybe not always like a contractual obligation or anything, but sometimes an author will give you an arc specifically expecting that you will be getting a review out for them. But a lot of the times, authors just send arcs out, or even if you ask for them, there's not always an understanding of, okay, I'm going to review this like right now. So, there's been lots of arcs that I've DNF'd. There's been lots of books that I've DNF'd. And during that whole controversy, people were saying, well, it's still good to put out a review for a book you DNF. Listen, if I DNF something, it's within the first like few chapters. Like within the first like 10% of the book is usually when I'll DNF something if it's just not clicking with me. Unless a close friend says specifically, keep going until like 50%. If you don't like it by then go ahead and drop it. But for the most part, I'm DNFing pretty early. So putting out a DNF review doesn't really make sense for me because I wouldn't be able to accurately give any sort of review for like why I DNF'd it. Usually it just wasn't clicking for me. And there's usually not a whole lot of reason beyond that. Like something about the writing style wasn't clicking for me. It's a very subjective thing rather than the writing was bad or the story was bad or the characters were bad. Usually it's just like, I'm just not feeling this, and so I'm gonna DNF it. But I have noticed since that controversy that a lot of authors now, because it was such a huge thing on Twitter, like if you weren't on Twitter during that time, it like took over your timeline completely. So I think a lot of authors came out of the woodwork and they were like, hey, by the way, if I send you an arc or even if you ask for one, if you can't get to it or if you can't review it or if you DNF it, that's fine. And so it was kind of a change in the community for the better, I think, even though the guy that started that whole thing was a total tool. I think that for the better, it kind of made everybody realize, okay, it's okay to DNF this stuff. And a lot of authors came out saying, yes, please DNF if you're not enjoying it. You don't owe me anything. So I really appreciated that. And now even when I ask for an arc, I'm like, hey, by the way, just let you know, I'm not committing to reviewing this. If like I know that I'm asking you for an arc, and if you want to give me one, that's great. But also just know that I'm not like contracting myself out to review this. Like if you send me an arc, you're taking the chance that I might DNF it. So and a lot of authors have been super cool about that. Like every single person I've said that to, every single author I've said that to has been like, oh yeah, that's no problem, I totally get it. So then we have some more AI book cover controversy. As I'm sure some of you know, there's been a pretty big rise in not only AI book covers, but also AI writing. People are publishing AI written books, which I think is completely absurd and no one should ever get paid to do that. But the AI book covers are definitely on the rise, and there's been several books that have kind of been boycotted because they have AI book covers. And if you don't know too much about, why having an AI book cover is bad, I would strongly recommend looking into it. I know Daniel Green did a really good video about why the AI artwork is not okay because, a lot of people think that it's just a robot making up these images and it's just creating it from nothing. That's absolutely not true. It is stealing it from hardworking artists, and there's been several AI artwork pieces that have been tracked down by the original artist and said, "Look at my art," and then look at what the AI art made, and like there's very obvious plagiarism there. So I would say I'm not going to go into the whole thing now, but I would just say look into it because it is very damaging to the art community and very damaging to the book community. But we have people saying, and again, I'm not going to mention any names, but an author says, "You know what I'm getting real sick of? People thinking they can bully and shame others into not using AI artwork. An indie author needs every cost saving and competitive edge that they can get." So here's the thing is, yeah, you can save money doing a AI book cover, but a couple things with that. So you save the money doing the AI cover, right? But pretty much almost unanimously, I would say a good like 75 to 80% of the book reading community is very much against AI book covers. If you save a few bucks with the AI book cover, is it really worth it? Is it worth alienating 80% of the book community just to have your cheap book cover? And I don't think it is. I don't think that works out for them in the long run when people are so obviously opposed to this trend. And then the other thing is, let's pretend for a second that the AI book covers aren't plagiarizing work from other artists. You're still taking away work from artists in this community that could have your business and could be making you an awesome cover. And then with the other thing of it's too expensive to hire some of these artists to do book covers. And the thing is, it's really not. There are many starving artists out there that will do artwork for very cheap, and obviously it'll be kind of on a spectrum of better to worse, somewhere in there. But the thing is, there are options available. There are people out there that will do a book cover for like $200 or something, and I've even seen them as low as $100. So you just have to put in the work and look for it. And one of the last things I have to say about that too is, as far as the money goes, I feel like there's kind of this entitlement, especially with the Twitter self-pub authors. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm ragging on self-pub. I read a ton of self-pub. I love self-pub authors. However, there is a subset of them that has this entitlement like, oh, well, I should be able to make a book for nothing. And I would challenge them and say, since when has any hobby or any career not been pay to play? Almost every single career that you get into, you need something, whether you have to buy a laptop for the job, or like for me in construction, I had to buy all my tools. I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on tools, not to mention my truck that is a daily asset in my construction work. So for everything, and even for this hobby, even for just making YouTube videos, even for this video, just filming in my bedroom with no fancy editing and no fancy green screen, I still have to have a really nice mic. I have to have a decent camera. I have to have a computer that can film me and edit all the videos. All of that costs thousands of dollars. There is a buy-in for these things. Nothing is just free. Like, yeah, technically you could open Word or Notepad or whatever and write a story on it and send it out to the internet, but that's not a good long-term strategy for success when trying to sell a book. You can't just get something for nothing, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that the work that they're putting in is nothing. Obviously that is work that they should be compensated for, and that is definitely an accomplishment. But with that, there are all sorts of other things that go around that. You can't just write a book and self-publish it and that be that. You have to put in money for marketing. You have to put in money for your cover art if you have an audiobook version, which I highly, highly, highly recommend because so many people are doing audiobooks nowadays. You have to find a good narrator and put the money in for that. You will get back what you put in. I really do believe that with most things, not just writing books, but even with my construction company. If I showed up to the job site with tools from Harbor Freight, and I don't know if you guys know what Harbor Freight is, it's kind of a it's a store that sells all the tools that you would find in Home Depot, but they're made in like Taiwan or something. Like they're super, super, super cheap and they break within a few weeks. And so if I showed up to the job with those tools, or if I just bought some like random brand off Amazon or something, I'm not kidding you, I would literally be laughed off the job site. Probably by the homeowner themselves, because a lot of homeowners are pretty savvy to what good and bad tools are and what they look like. So, there is a bit of a pay to win and even just a pay to play. Like just to get in the door, you need to pay. So to kind of wrap this up, sorry, I didn't mean to rant for this long, but I think that authors, even if they're self-pubbed, they need to go in with the idea that, okay, I'm going to need to save up some money. I'm going to have to put in a few more hours at my day job or something. And, saving money is not that difficult, guys. Like any any adult will tell you that part of life is having to save money and put it aside. And I have to do it with every paycheck for the extra things that I want. I just bought a new monitor that I'll talk about in a little bit. And I was only able to buy it because for the past several paychecks, I put $50 here and $50 there and $100 here where I could, and just little pieces of money that I saved up. And I got the monitor that I've really wanted for a long time. And that's just part of being an adult, and it's part of saving and being smart with your money. And, I know lots of people are in different situations in life, and I totally get that. Last winter, I was completely broke. I couldn't even make rent. I was having to borrow from friends and family left and right just to stay afloat. And so I totally, totally understand that things in life happen, and times are not always easy. We don't always have the money that we wish we did, but part of that, being responsible and being an adult is also understanding that, if without that money and without being financially smart about how you're saving and spending your money and whatnot, you just can't do the things that you want to do. And that doesn't necessarily make it right to cheat others out of the hard work that they put into their artwork and go ahead and use some artificial intelligence to create the things for your book just because it's cheaper and it won't cost you nearly as much as paying a hardworking human to do it for you. I think that AI is definitely the wrong route to go, not only for book covers, but I have problems with AI and all sorts of other stuff. Like, I don't want AI to be around really at all. And so I think that, that's something that the book community really needs to think about in the next couple years and decide, how we feel about this and decide if it's really worth losing a massive audience to just to save a few bucks. And in case it's not clear, I'll just throw this in kind of at the end of that little rant here. We at the Fantasy Files do not support AI artwork, if that was any mystery to you guys. So you won't find us purposely reviewing any book that has AI artwork or is AI written or anything like that. There may be something in the future as this technology gets better where we read a book and review it or whatever, and we didn't know that it was AI manufactured with the cover art or what's on the inside, but we will never intentionally pay for or review a book that is involved in AI in any way other than subject matter. Okay, so after those kind of heavier topics, let's go into some lighter stuff. I bought a new PC monitor on Prime Day and I love it a lot. Let me see if I can, maybe I can show you guys. Let's see if I can do that. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh, that is trippy. But yeah, this thing is awesome. I love I love this monitor. But yeah, thank God for Prime Day because this is a $1,000 monitor and it was 50% off. And I don't love everything about it. There's certain things that I haven't been a huge fan of. It's kind of a hybrid between a TV and a computer monitor. But my God, it is gorgeous. It is any time that I've played a game on this thing, I am just stunned by the picture quality. It's for a long time, I heard people talking about like, oh, you got to get like this really nice monitor, this really nice TV for gaming and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I have like a good enough TV. I don't think I need anything like super crazy. No, they were absolutely right. As soon as I started playing games on this thing, I was like, I legitimately don't know how I could ever go back to anything else, just because it's such a night and day difference. But with that, what I've been playing on it lately, I've talked about this a lot lately. I know everything is going to be very Harry Potter centric just because I'm going down this whole rabbit hole for the first time in my 30s, because I never did when I was a kid. But I am still playing Hogwarts Legacy, and this game has absolutely captivated me. It is so magical and incredible, and I am loving it so much. I think I'm like 40 hours deep into it, and I'm not even finished with the main story. I just keep getting lost and wandering off and going and doing all this side content, and you'll fly around on your broom, which is just the best. Like, oh my God, flying around on a broom in that game feels so good. You feel like you can zip around everywhere and quickly ascend and or descend and ascend, and man, it is really awesome. But I'll find myself flying into like a random village, and I'll fly down there, and there'll just be people going about their daily lives, and there'll be some farmer or something with a side quest, and it never really feels like go and get 10 of these things and bring it back to me. It's always a story mission. There's something going on. You learn something about the character's backstory and the situation that they find themselves in. And the whole game is like that. All across the game, everything is very story driven. The RPG mechanics are really light, which is a little disappointing sometimes. I would like some deeper RPG elements to it. But overall, I am so hooked on this game. This game is the definition of magical. Like, just I've spent countless hours just walking through Hogwarts and doing stuff and just exploring the castle. I probably haven't even seen 50% of the castle at this point. It's so massive, and there's all these crazy corridors that you get to explore and all these secret rooms, and it really feels like you are living a school year at Hogwarts. I will be so disappointed if they don't do DLC. I think right now they don't have any plans for it. They don't have anything in the works. I don't know how they could possibly not do DLC. It's such a like best-selling game the past few months. So yeah, I think they definitely need DLC. They definitely need to do a sequel at some point. I don't know how they wouldn't do a sequel. It's such a good game. So obviously, high recommend for me. And then I guess I'll ask, would you guys like more video game content? Please, seriously, let me know down in the comments if you would like to see some video game content from us. We've done some on our second channel. I think we have like a review for Horizon Forbidden West up there, and it didn't do super well. But if you guys are interested in seeing some Hogwarts Legacy content, just like, you know, a review or some gameplay or something, definitely let me know down there what you think, and I will make that happen, because I could talk about this game literally for hours. So, with that, what I've been reading is I've steadily been making my way through the Harry Potter books, and I am loving these books so much. I am completely captivated by them, and I just never want them to end. I'm so surprised that she hasn't written more of them, like prequels or sequels or whatever. I just want to read more and more and more in this world. I have 2 books left, and I'm going to savor them, because I love this world. I love this story. I love these characters. And, you know, I talked about this before, so I won't belabor it. But when I was younger, I totally skipped them. I was just like, yeah, that's not for me. But reading them now, I'm like, man, I would have been captivated by these as a child. I'm captivated by them now. I can't imagine how that would have shaped my childhood, having read those books earlier on. But yeah, what an incredible series. I can't wait to get through the last couple. I'm sure that I'm gonna cry, because I cried at the first one, I cried at the 5th one, and I'm sure there's been a couple other moments of getting choked up in those other books in there somewhere. My God, what an incredible series. I don't even know what to say about it other than just to gush about how much I'm loving them. I'm also reading Impact Winter, and I guess not really reading. It's like an Audible production with like a whole cast and sound effects, and there's no like narration like this person did this. It's like people talking and sound effects, and you kind of have to put it together in your head as to what's going on, but they make it really easy for you because the sound design is so good. It's kind of like a post-apocalyptic story about, like, instead of a zombie apocalypse, it's kind of like a vampire apocalypse, and it's really, really, really well done. So season 2 just came out. That's what I'm reading right now. If you haven't listened to them, I would highly recommend going and listening to season 1 and then going into season 2. But make sure you have both headphones in, because there is like dynamic sound that kind of rotates, and the stuff that they're able to do with that is really cool. I believe we'll be talking about that this weekend on the podcast, or at least we'll be recording it and it'll come out in a couple weeks or whatever. All right, well, I'll wrap it up there and let you get back to your weekend. I gotta start editing Tuesday's episode, which will be some more talk about Night Angel Nemesis. Someone reached out to us in our comment section wanting to talk Night Angel with us, so I said, what the hell, why not? And we had a really fantastic time chatting, so I hope you check that out if you've read the new Night Angel book. And if you haven't, you absolutely should. We also have another Creators Corner episode coming up pretty soon with Nick Henderson, host of the 4-Player podcast, where we talk about him and his friends starting a podcast many years ago that's still going. And then we almost, from there, we almost 100% talk about video games. So if you're into games, you will absolutely love that episode. Nick is a good friend of mine now. He's been on the second channel a few times to talk about Last of Us, and he is one of my absolute favorite people to talk to on the podcast. So I think that you're going to have a great time with that episode. With that said, like, subscribe, check out our Patreon linked below, and have a fantastic rest of your weekend. And of course, try to avoid Farmer Joe. He really does let his horses fuck people. And a big shout out to our first Night Angel tier patron, Shad Zaman. Thank you so much, man.